And have our knees bent such that, hang on a second. Yes, we'll have our knees bent. And that's just helpful for the low back, you know, like if there's some of that SI joint stuff going on. Might offer a little more comfort. And right away, you might find that your hands were drawn to a particular part of the body. Like I didn't think about putting my hands on my belly and solar plexus area. I just did it. So notice where your hands landed. And you're welcome to readjust them, but you might want to consider leaving them right where they were. And we'll start off taking our temperature, as it were. So just allowing the eyes to soften or close and allowing the muscles in the eyes to relax, almost as if your eyes were drifting downwards, like pearls floating through the ocean onto the sand at the bottom. And just notice that you're breathing. And we'll do a simple scan of the body, starting at the crown of the head. And like you had a sparkling laser moving from the top of the head down towards your feet, scanning slowly through the head, around the eyes, down towards the jaw, simply allowing the breath to move through the body, almost as if the scan were powered by the exhale, and noticing any sensation or lack of sensation as you're scanning through. You might find it helpful to put labels on what you notice. Constriction, tightness, ease. And doing your best not to make a judgment about what you're noticing. But rather like you're walking into a room you haven't been into for a while and figuring out, well, do I need to turn the heat on? Do I need to turn the air conditioning on or open the window or dust or simply sit down? What do I need to do in this room? You won't know unless you assess. And eventually making your way down towards the toes. And then we'll start to take some more intentional breaths. I'd actually like to invite you to breathe into the back body. So as you breathe, paying attention, attending to the areas of the back that connect with the floor. And filling the backs of your lungs, almost as if you could allow the back body to move away from the mat. If that doesn't make sense, the way that your foot presses on the ground, on the floor, right before it leaves the ground as you're walking, sort of that lift-off feeling. Can you breathe into the back body so that you're creating a sense of kinetic energy? And if it feels good to exhale through the mouth or sigh, that is excellent. Taking this opportunity to let the ether element, space element, consciously move through the body, circulating joy and recycling, removing any tension or unnecessary negative mental or physical patterns. You might notice, like I just did, that you end up yawning. That's the parasympathetic nervous system saying, thank you. Thank you for slowing down, for reminding me that I'm safe. And then play with breathing into the front body. So really being aware as you fill the low belly with breath and all the way up towards the sternum and the clavicles with breath. Being aware of the upwards motion as the body, as the core and the lungs fill with breath. Noticing here what your jaw is like. Can you relax your tongue? Can you be aware of the energetic set of the eyes, even if they're closed? Can you allow the space between the eyebrows and the center of the forehead to soften as you breathe into the front of the body? And then go ahead and fold your arms over your chest, or not over your chest, but like under the breast area, over the solar plexus, so that either hand is holding the opposite rib cage or something close to that. And we'll start to inhale with a focus on the side body. So actually sensing or even feeling the intercostal muscles stretching it, feeling the sides of your body, the ribs stretching apart. Something really interesting that I learned not too long ago is that all of our fascia, all of the fascia connective tissue in the body, it all meets at the lungs. And so when we breathe with intention, we're sending signals to the really intelligent connective tissue that has a lot to do with how we hold ourselves and how our physical body responds to stress in our environments, we're sending messages to that part of us, which is all parts of us basically, that we're okay. And then let's take whatever you have in terms of belt or similar. Take your belt and we'll take the right foot. Oops, just making my phone be quiet. Take the right foot and you can loop the belt over it. Sometimes it's nice to have an actual loop. But you can just hold either side of it too. I'll make my loop, what the heck. And we're going to take a fairly static pose here. So I would like to encourage you not to focus so much on getting the biggest stretch you can, but actually on what almost like the lightest stretch you can get in the back of the leg here. Like, yes, you want to feel something, but if you play with bending the knee a little bit, at some point you're going to feel basically nothing in the back of the leg, probably, for most of us. And so play with stretching out the leg, but not to the point where you're cranking on it. And just send a little bit of attention to the left leg, and for a moment, send energy through the sole of that left foot and bring the toes in towards your nose, left toes in towards your nose, just to give yourself a bit of a straightening when it comes to that left foot. And then let the left foot soften, the left leg soften. We're going to play with gently pulsing that right leg, inhaling to let the knee bend ever so slightly, so that you're really backing off almost completely from sensation in the hamstrings, and then exhaling to extend a bit. So really low key, really quite subtle. And yet, there's a lot of information in there. And you might find that you'd rather inhale and straighten the leg. I just noticed that I did that automatically. So play with that if you want. Notice whether your breath is full. Notice whether the muscles of your face and your neck could be more relaxed. Go ahead and take your left hand and put it on the point of your left hip, and we'll just open the right leg out to the side. You can put your right elbow on the ground, so you're kind of stabilizing. So keeping grounded through the pelvis, even as you open up to get some stretch and prana into the inner thigh. You might also notice that the left hip flexor has some sensation here. Sighing when it feels good. Even moving the jaw open and around a bit. And then drawing the knee back in towards the center, you can let the, just drop the belt for a moment. You don't have to take it off the foot. Just draw the right knee in closer towards your chest. And go with your gut here. You might want more stillness, or you might enjoy a sense of rocking the knee back and forth, side to side, front to back. Just feel it out. Not really pushing anything, but riding what we're given, navigating what's easily accessible, and gently pressing those boundaries a touch. Let's let both legs extend long here, and we'll just pause for a moment. I learned at the chiropractor today, I had a workup, I learned that one of my legs is a full inch longer basically than the other, because one of my hips is an inch higher. So I feel that to an extreme right now. You might notice too that one of your legs feels quite a bit longer, even more, more vibrant. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Put the this thing, what's it called? The rope or whatever, the belt, that's it, the belt. Put the belt around the ball of your left foot, and soft with that left knee. Go ahead and just for a breath or two, send energy out through that right sole of foot, flexing it, pressing the thigh down in space, and then soften the right leg, right foot, and we'll play with, again, inhaling and exhaling, and simultaneously, in accordance with the breath, straightening and softening the left leg. Notice what happens with your calf muscle as you straighten and soften. And you can even notice here whether you have an attraction or an aversion or a neutrality to this, towards this little gesture, this little baby sequence here. Just kind of noticing. And again, we'll this time place the right hand on the right hip point and open the left leg and resting your left elbow onto the ground. If it's necessary to lengthen the belt to make this accessible, please do that. And breathe. Sense what constricted. I felt my whole right hip flexor constrict, my core and low belly kind of tightened up, and I'm just breathing to see whether that part can soften without any sacrifice here. And if the leg wants to open all the way out because you have the space in your body, that's fine. You can let the foot come to the floor. Keep a sense of weightedness in that right hip, though. From here, go ahead and let the belt go. We're actually going to come back to the right foot here. Belt goes over the right foot and lengthen the left leg so I can come out straight. And we're going to do a little IT stretch. So keeping both sides of the pelvis on the ground here, so you don't want to like totally go over right away. Keep both sides of the pelvis on the ground. Bring the right foot over the midline towards the left, and you'll probably feel your IT bend really quickly. Maybe some outer hip here. Right arm can come out to the right side. And again, resisting the urge to really torque anything and see what you can get with, what can you get away with? How little effort can you put in for noticeable results? I know I can make things harder for myself than I need to in life, and yoga is really, it's about integration. It's about uniting our parts of ourselves. So anything we do on the mat has a translation in real life. So this idea of just being soft and still getting somewhere, like that's a big lesson for me. And it's nice to practice it where the stakes are pretty low. You can go ahead and let that right hip come off the mat and come all the way into a twist. Right arm can come out to the side. If you want to really complete the twist, if you feel like you have the space, turn your head towards the right. But otherwise, you can keep your head looking left or even straight up. Notice whether your hands can soften even while still maintaining the necessary grip. And observe where the breath is moving automatically. And whether you can invite the breath to take up more space in the lungs. You can let the lower leg, the left leg, soften. And let everything soften even while you keep the shape in general. So see how much of the shape you can keep if you let your hands really soften. If you let pretty much any effort go. If you have a real belt, this might involve starting to hold a little further down on the belt. So further, letting the belt be longer, the space between your hand and the foot be longer. Getting really curious about where the body lands when it's not held in place. Knowing that there's certainly value in guiding and holding ourselves. And there's also a lot of value in noticing where we land when we're not holding ourselves. On your next exhale, you can bring your right hand behind the right knee and draw the knee back over to the right. And just leave both feet on the floor for a moment. We'll pause and notice the difference between sides. I feel like I can breathe a lot easier on the right side of my body right now. You might notice something different. Taking any little wiggles or adjustments that feel good. We're going to do the same thing on the other side now. So the right foot can extend long and take the belt around the ball of the left foot. Left arm can come out to the side, and you just draw the left leg over the midline. Being aware of that left side of the pelvis and allowing it to stay connected to the ground. You might need like very, very little crossing over. Like I'm barely over the central line of my body here. And I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. So no big deal. See if you can take a little and do something with that little sensation. And the cool thing about actually backing off and starting at your entry point is that as you breathe and hang out, many times the body will give you more space, will give you more to work with because you didn't jerk it into anything. You didn't force it into anything. It's like, oh, okay, I can actually trust you. Okay. And then making our way over to a fuller twist. So left arm out. You might feel a nice stretch in the pectoral muscles, in the upper inner arm, left arm. And landing here again, noticing the softness that you can access in your right hand, while still holding onto the bell. Getting curious about your breath. Can you invite it into any spaces where it's currently not flowing? Like you're removing a big rock from the center of a stream that was parting the waters. Can you take any unintentional blocks out of the way so that the stream of your breath flows more easily? And then taking the left hand and placing it behind the left knee, drawing the left knee in towards the center of your body. Coming back to having the knees knocking together and feet on the ground, just pause. Sense your own subtlety here. That might show up as a freer flow of energy, swirling, buzzing, sensations in general. You might simply have a sense of your pulse. Or of a lighter or different mood or perspective. All good. Make our way onto our sides, and actually before we do anything, just stretch, free form, whatever way feels good. getting kind of primal about it. And this might be the first time today that you just ask your body, like, how do you want to move? And it might not, but reminding ourselves that, like, we can do this pretty much anytime. Some semblance of stretching or moving or actively listening and responding to what the body might want. I'm getting some nice wrist rolls and ankle rolls here in both directions, just kind of playing with what it feels like to have hands, to have wrists. And then holding both knees and just a little rocking up and down. You could even circle the knees a little bit, one direction and the other. Noticing the breath as you either press yourself onto your side and come up to standing, or you can rock and roll and actually go from being on your back all the way to standing. And this is like a pretty noteworthy adjustment in perspective. We've been on our backs for quite a while, so if you're like me, you might have had a rush of blood to the head. So just taking a moment to, I kind of like that feeling as long as I know that it's going to settle. So taking a moment to let that settle. And you were probably walking before you started this class. And notice what it feels like to be on your feet now compared to as you were starting. Perhaps a deeper sense of being grounded, like plugged in to the ground. Maybe a sense of having settled some of that vata-oriented energy, that windy kind of floaty stress energy that can come from overconsumption of all the things we consume, like audio input, news, conversations, other people's stuff, that kind of thing. And then just pausing to like relax the butt muscles, to let the inner edges of the feet be parallel, with the feet either hips width distance or a little bit further apart. And then play with the toes for a second, let them lift and spread the toes apart. You can rock back and forth, front to back. It's like super simple movement. And then gently let the thighs press backwards in space. Take a few conscious breaths. Sensing ever so slightly a dropping of the tailbone, even if it's just energetic. Like there doesn't need to be any real big physical movement here, but a dropping of the tailbone and a lifting of the pubic bone. Not an exaggeration, just an awareness almost of you can almost call it like a wheel that, I'll turn sideways so you can see it, like a wheel that lifts the pubic bone and gently drops the tailbone. And it can be a tiny bend in the knees, even if the thighs are pressing back. And taking a breath from your grounded feet to your firm thighs, to your lifted pubic bone, all the way to the chest. Allowing the heart center to rise, and exhaling to allow the shoulders to relax. And we're gonna light ourselves up like we had like treasure trove jewels in the feet as we begin an inhale, and the thighs as we continue the inhale, and the low belly, and the chest, envisioning each of these spaces lighting up on the inhales as you Draw the breath up through the body, and exhaling, letting them dim gently, but not go completely out. Inhaling from the feet. You even lift the toes as you inhale at the feet to the thighs, pubic bone, chest, even the crown of the head. And exhaling to soften everything. If the toes are lifted, you can drop them. Next, we'll continue that sense of drawing the breath up through the body, and we'll draw the arms up. When the hands get up to overhead, the fingertips light up in your envisioning. And exhale, sweeping the hands out to the side, bending the knees slightly, hinging at the hips for a forward fold. We'll take a breath or two here in a forward fold. You can play with bending one knee and straightening the other. This gives a nice release for the sacroiliac joint. It gives a nice release for the quadratus lumborum, those dense muscles on either side of the low back. Shaking the head no, nodding yes. And then hands either to the ground or onto the shins. Lift to straighten the back, crown of the head forward, inhaling. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling with your awareness starting at the feet, coming all the way up to standing, inhaling into the hips, to the shoulders and chest, all the way to the fingertips. And exhaling, hands to center in prayer. We're going to play with a little bit of breath of joy, since we have someone who's self-described as joyful, and someone who loves breath of joy, and someone who, I know, Sarah, you have a bit of a shoulder injury, but just go slow and mindful and modify as needed. So we'll inhale Frankenstein arms. This is a 3-part breath. So you're inhaling in thirds. Inhaling, arms in front. Inhaling, arms out to the side. Inhaling, arms up. And then a long exhale through the mouth or the nose. Arms overhead. And we continue. I'd encourage going fairly slow, meditative, to continue our ride. But if you can't contain yourself, go at your own pace. Letting the exhale be very complete. Nice. Even letting a smile come into the picture, if that feels good. And even if you just want to trick your body into producing extra happy hormones, that's a valid reason. Do a couple more. Being very aware of even like the muscles in your back as you move positions. How do your back muscles respond? Last one. Coming up to stand. Taking that moment to pause. To notice what's unfurling. We'll make our way to seated. I'm gonna do the same as you. I'm not gonna mirror you for this. Take your right knee as if you were about to sit in a cross-legged. You can sit on a block or a blanket or something that feels, if that helps your tight hips. And then instead of completing the cross leg, bring the left foot to the outside of the right knee and right thigh. And then you can take your right hand and lift it up in the sky, and either inhaling up in the sky, and either exhaling hand onto your knee, or if you have the space, right elbow to the outside of the left knee. And your left hand can stay behind you as a support. So here, we want to be aware of the spine, of course. And instead of focusing on how far the twist can get, be more focused on how deep the breath can get, because that's really where the money is in any twisting posture. And as you focus on the breath and allow the breath to move through the body, you might notice that you're suddenly allowed a bit more twist. Spine tall, kind of head lifted. See where you can soften, eyes, jaw, hands and fingers. And the hands can come down, untwist your legs. Bring your legs wide here. And just do a wide-legged forward fold. So taking a moment to kind of get situated and drawing the toes in towards you. Inhaling the spine tall and then exhaling, hinging. If you're anything like me, this is as far as you go, because I don't have any more space. I'm just going to breathe for a couple of moments. Key is having integrity in the spine. So because I have engaged muscles here in my legs, I want to keep some lift in my heart rather than rounding the spine so that I can get farther forward, because I don't gain anything by getting farther forward if I'm losing integrity in my body. Notice the breath. Inhale back up. And then as if you were going to start sitting cross-legged, this time the right knee bends, the left knee bends, left foot in towards you. Right foot to the outside of the left knee. This is a twisty pose. And then the right hand can come behind you. Inhale the left arm up into space. Even exhale here to let the right seat bones settle a little bit. This is where sitting up on a blanket is helpful for me because I have pretty tight hips. You might find the same to be true. And then on your next exhale, either elbow to the outside of that knee or the hand if you don't have the space for the elbow. Both are good. And as you breathe your spine tall here, thinking about the left shoulder blade coming closer in towards the heart. Almost like the left shoulder blade were scooping what's in front of it forward. That'll help you get a nice twist in the upper back, which is not the part of the back that wants to bend easiest. Low back's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it all day, but the mid and upper back are like not that into it. So we help them. Can you soften your fingers, your jaw, your neck? Untwisting. You can come so that you're sitting at the top of your mat. Again, if you have tight hips or hamstrings, you can sit on a bolster or blanket. Really blanket's gonna work better. Won't kill you if you don't. Wiggle your seat bones side to side so that you're even on them. Feet out, tall dandasana, stack pose. Inhaling the arms up. And exhaling, again, forward folding. Grabbing onto whatever is accessible for you. So if that's your shins, that's your shins. Breathing from the base of your spine to the crown of your head. Lengthening the heart up. Lengthening the spine by drawing the heart up. And then finally, let the legs soften, so no tone in the legs, just let them be as they are. Palms face up, and because we're not drawing muscle tone into this, we can round the back, and you can even let your chin relax down if that feels okay. And just be soft here. If it feels really intense, just come out of the fold a little bit. You don't have to make it deeply uncomfortable, but this is a yin posture. And it works on the connective tissue in a really deep way. So we're going to hang out here for a couple of minutes. So just find your entry place and stay with your breath. Get really curious about the minuscule adjustments that your body will inevitably make if you breathe with intention in a pose like this. Last couple breaths, see where you might be holding a bit and see whether you have the ability to soften just 1% more. And then flipping the hands to give yourself a little help, slowly coming to sit up. From here, we'll make our way into resting posture. So Shavasana or whatever else feels lovely for you. Perhaps covering up or covering the eyes to deepen your experience of rest. Tapping in once again to the breath. If there's anything in your physical and energetic body that feels like it could use a little help releasing. So that you can really land gently in this resting posture. Just committing to yourself that you'll stay present, which really means you'll continue to come back to yourself when you notice that the mind has wandered. Beginning to take deeper breaths. Perhaps smiling to yourself. Starting to once again stretch and move in whatever ways feel instinctive to the body. As you feel ready, pressing yourself up to a seated position. Pausing to seal your practice with an intention that you'd like to keep in mind as you move through your evening. What matters here? I honor you for joining tonight. It was really, really nice to practice with you. I've missed it the last couple of weeks, so thanks for playing. And I hope you have an awesome night.